Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen as well.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm just waiting. I see a couple of people missing, but I think let's get going. Okay, we have, I think, everyone. Okay, so what we are going to do today is we are going to discuss one of the most important topic of all the sessions. Approximately, this training course has 26 sessions, but out of 26, this is going to be the most important session because we are going to discuss the requirements. What exactly is a requirement? And as a BA, I think by now you know that we are all about understanding the needs of the stakeholders and converting them into such a state that we can build a system, a solution out of it. Right? So anyone who has any doubt on what I just now said? I think there's some background noise. If you can please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay. Hey, Gilmore, I think there's some noise from your end. So yes, thank you. Okay, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask me any questions as you need. Okay. So let me do one thing before we can start the discussion. Okay. So as I was saying that this is going to be the most important of all the sessions we'll be doing. Okay, understanding the requirements, definition of a requirement, and the different types of requirements we need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So here what you are seeing is a definition of a requirement, but I'm not too much interested in this definition. We'll take a practical approach to understand what a requirement is. Okay, I think, hey Gunjan, you're not able to hear me? I think, what about you guys, other guys? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, I think Gunjan, you need to reconnect.
Yes.
So let me know when you are able to hear me. Why don't you just disconnect and log back in? Okay. So, okay, I was asking this question, the definition of a requirement, right? So if you see this definition here from, we have two different definitions. One is IIBA. It's an institute which is based out of Canada, and the full name is International Institute of Business Analysis, IIBA. And they offer certain certifications, different types of certifications in the BA field. So the definition as per IIBA is that a requirement is a condition or capability needed by a stakeholder to solve a problem or achieve an objective. Right? Then they have a second definition which states a condition or capability that must be met or possessed by a solution or a component of a solution to satisfy a contract, standard, specification, or other formally imposed documents. Don't worry if this is too complicated, but I just want to go through this because when we go back and take a practical approach to the meaning of requirement, I will tie this definition back to the example we will see. And the second institute, which is again at the forefront of business analysis field, is PMI, which is Project Management Institute. And they generally offer certifications in PM world, that is a project management world. But lately, since last 1 year, they have entered into the BA field, and they are in head-to-head competition with IIBA. So PMI offers a certification called PBA, which is Professional in Business Analysis, whereas IIBA issues a certification which is one of the good certifications or recognized certification is CBAP, which is Certified Business Analysis Professional. So as per PMI, a definition of requirement is which represents something that can be met by a product, service, and can address a need of a business person or a group of people. So in a very crude form, we can say that a requirement is a need or a want from a stakeholder which has to be met in a solution. Whether we are building a system or we are enhancing an existing system, or there is no system at all, we are just improving the process. Right? A solution can be a pure business thing, which is you are trying to improve the process, there is no system involved, or it can be the system component, that is you are trying to build a new system or enhance existing system which is supporting some process. In either case, the goal is to satisfy the needs, the requirements of your key stakeholders. Now this is a classic pyramid, the requirements pyramid. Probably if you have seen my demo, I've explained this pyramid in detail. And this will go a long way. If you understand this pyramid, I think you have covered 25–30% of this whole course. So this is what we call the requirements pyramid. And the way you need to read this is from top, right? So you start from the top and you go down in this sequence. And if you see on the right side, there are two different categories. One is what we call the problem domain, and the second one is a solution domain. In the problem domain, we typically understand the needs of the stakeholder and what we call the high-level business needs or high-level requirements of the stakeholders. In the previous session, 2 sessions, we understood, we kind of went into detail and explained the definition of a stakeholder, who can be the stakeholders, what are the different types of stakeholders, and which one is one of the most important stakeholders for a BA. Right? So if I ask you, what is the role of an SME and why is it important for a BA to talk to an SME? Dhriti, what do you have to say in that? Are you on mute, Dhriti? Dilip?
Yeah, Chatan, what was the question?
So the question is, why do we need to talk to the SMEs? As a BA, why would you need to talk to an SME?
I think because they know the process and they have the
They know,
knowledge. What?
yes, they know the process, they know the problems,
Yeah.
right? And they also know what they want from the
Yes.
solution,
Yes.
right? Thank you. Dhriti, are you there? I just want to make sure that you're clear with this. Okay, I'm not sure if she's there. Okay, we'll come back to her. Okay, no issues. So, okay, thank you. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is understanding the high level needs of your stakeholders, because that is the reason why we want to implement a solution. That's a key driver of doing all the work which the entire team is hired to do. If we don't understand this high level needs, high level requirements of the stakeholders, the project will obviously be a big failure. Right? So let's understand some of the, some real world examples we can think of. So imagine if there's a client which is a bank trying to, like it's into the loan business. They give loans to the consumers so that they can buy homes, or they can have home improvement loans, those kind of things. And I think it ties back to the example we took in one of the sessions, that loan approval process is taking a lot of time. It's taking 2 weeks as compared to the competitors, which is doing it in 4 days. So here the management is not going to sit and watch forever. They will take an action. They want to do something, and for the management, the requirement is to improve the loan approval process, to expedite that loan approval process, maybe from 10 days to 5 days, right? Maybe from 10 days to 2 days if they want to be very aggressive and very competitive. But for them, the high level need, the business need or requirement is to expedite the loan approval cycle time, right? To reduce the cycle time from 10 days to 4 days or 3 days, whatever the goal is. For them, they are not going to get too much tied with how the system will look, what are the different features in the system. Their goal is, or their requirement is, to reduce the cycle time from 10 days to 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, whatever that goal is or goal has been set by the management. And if you think, the whole project will be based on that. So if we deliver a project, if we deliver a system, and after like 8 months, if the system is unable to meet the goal or meet the need, high level need of the stakeholders, by using that system, still the bank employees cannot reduce the cycle time of the loan, it's a waste. Right? Do you think after like 8 months, if we spend like $1 million and we give the system to the bank employees, to the customers, they start using it, and still it's taking them like 8 days to approve the loan? Do you think what we did was worth enough?
No.
No, right? Because we spend that much money, we spend time on this, and after like 6-8 months, we are getting a system, we are getting a solution, and still the high level needs of the stakeholders, in this case the management, is not met. So the project is a big failure, right?
Yes.
So let me ask Rafi. Rafi, are you there?
I'm here.
So in your day-to-day life, you must be using some sort of system, application to do your work, right?
Right.
So what is it that is helping the management? If you think, if you abstract all the benefits, how is it helping the high level needs of your management?
So any one of the system that I'm using?
Yeah, I mean, you can give any example. I know you might be having a bunch of application systems.
Right. So there's this new application, customer experience platform, that they
Mm-hmm.
introduced, and I actually worked as a SME for that app as well. So with that, we can anybody, any relationship banker, anybody who's sitting with a client can put in notes and everything, and the higher management can go into the system and see how many customers they've sat with, how many chats they have done, like
Mm-hmm.
what information they've collected from the customers, and what are the future needs for every customer, and that's where they take next
Okay.
steps.
Okay. Good. So they are kind of getting some sort of it's like a BI, right? Business intelligence, that they are
Right.
getting some sort of metrics, some sort of data into how much
Right.
time it took, how many customers were involved, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. And what's the outcome of the customer chat as well? I mean, the time that they spent with the customer relationship banker, what was the outcome, and if they're asking the right questions or not.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the high level need is to basically get some customer metrics to the management. That's a high level need, right? So that you can improve the customer experience,
Correct.
right? And I'm sure your top level leadership was not involved in a day-to-day discussion when the system was being built,
No, they were not.
right? So, but they knew that this system is being built for them so that they can improve the customer experience,
Right.
right? So that is exactly what a business need is. Now, if you got that thing wrong, do you think your management is going to use that system anymore?
No.
No, because their need is not met. The reason why they told you to do this project was to satisfy their need, and that need was to get them insights into the customer experience so that they can improve it.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's take some more examples. Now, how many times you have dialed in, you've called 1-800 number, whether it's your, you know, trying to get some information about your Apple product, or you you bought a new device, you bought a new product, you're trying to book a ticket online, and you want to talk to the customer rep, and you are put on hold for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. How many of you have been in that situation?
Yes.
Right? And
Anytime.
no,
Yeah.
right? And nobody likes to be on hold listening to the music, even if it's for like 1 minute. Right? These days we are so impatient, like, we need everything instant. So forget about 1 minute, I mean 5 minutes. 1 minute is a big time if you are on hold. So many companies, they want to improve the customer experience. So when somebody is calling, and this is one of the case study I read online, So initially the customer experience was so bad that they had to wait like 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the call. And after that, there was no way the customer had any, not the customer, sorry, the customer rep had any insights into what the problem is, what they are trying to solve, and the data which was required to support the customer request. So they had to start all over again. Once the customer was on, they were talking to the customer, they had to get all the data, and then they would start helping the customer, help the customer solve the problem. So here the high level need of the management was to reduce the wait time of the customer on a call. So that was a high level need. And they set up an SLA, what is called a service level agreement. So SLA is just, you can say, a fancy way of saying that we want to set a baseline. We want to establish a benchmark that each call of a customer will be answered in 2 minutes. Right? So it's like you're benchmarking your, you can say, the number of minutes it will take to respond to a customer's call. So each and every call of a customer must be responded in 2 minutes. That's my SLA, service level agreement. So that's a high level need of that management, right? Some more examples can be, the way we can see, in the bank how the checks are cleared. Now these days you can also, process a check from your cell phone, from your smartphone. You just take a photo and it can be processed into your account. So these are different ways we can think of what is the top level need, high level need of the stakeholders due to which we are doing the whole project. Now once you have this clear, then you go down to the solution domain and start understanding the stakeholder requirements. Now the stakeholder requirements is much more specific, and they come from your SMEs, from your customers who needs something from the system you're building. So this is a layer where you will do the as is and to be. That means you understand the way things are being done in the current state or as is state. You identify the pain points, the problems they are facing, the bottlenecks they have in the processes, and then you design the to be state or future state process based on that. And that future state process will be taken to define the system level requirements, which is the third layer here. So let me take some more examples here. Now, this is the high level need, right? High level business need or stakeholder requirements, which is saying that we want to expedite the loan approval process from 10 days to 2 days. And that's coming from the management or top level leadership. And this is exactly why we are doing the project. If we don't have this need, we don't need the project. We don't need the solution. This is this layer. Once we are done with this layer, we come to the stakeholder requirements. Stakeholder requirements, who is a stakeholder? It's a broad term, of course, but now we are talking to the SMEs. right? Just now we said SME is someone who knows the problems, the pain points, the issues we have, and what they need from the new process. So we need to talk to them and understand their level of requirements. Now, based on this, right, this has to be the basis of the project, but now we need some more defined requirements. We cannot build a system based on this. It's a very high level requirement. It's just one liner, one statement. We don't know what it means. I cannot give this statement to the design folks, to the architect, to developer, to tester, and they can't do anything with this one liner. So now we need to understand from the stakeholders, from the SMEs, tell me what exactly do we need or do you need so that you guys can do it in 2 days. And that is what the second layer of requirement is, your stakeholder requirements. Now these can be captured in different ways, and we will see in the next module. You can capture it in a way of process models. You can capture it in simple plain English, how we have it here. It can be captured in different ways, but the goal here is to understand the current state and then go to the future state, to be state. And if I think I opened this here, if you see, I was doing some, I wanted to pull some job descriptions of a BA so that you understand what we are doing here. So if you see this statement, understand the business needs, right? Each and every project, each and every job description will have that. Creating, designing, formatting, requirement specification document, process flows. Okay. I think it's the same one. So the point I was trying to make is that at this layer, your goal is to understand the current state and then go to the to be state, future state. And you can document that in a simple plain English. And I would highly encourage you guys to use some sort of modeling techniques. And process flows is the best tool and technique you should be using to do this level of requirements. So if you see here that now we have this level of requirement clear, we talk to the SMEs. Now let's suppose we have one SME in the loan department. The title of that person is the loan processing specialist. So we need to talk to them and understand what they need or what their requirement is so that they can do it from 10 days to 2 days. And this is not done at a system level, right? So this level of requirement, when you're talking to the stakeholders, it is not from the system perspective. Now, of course, you may have certain things which is directly related to a system, but you should focus more on the process than the system itself. So for example, one of the requirements for this loan processing specialist is, he might say that I want to have all the loan applications in my inbox in real time, right? That's how we can start the process early. I mean, if it's sitting somewhere else, I don't have the application, it's definitely going to add some more time to process. So the moment the customer submits the application, I should have it. The second requirement is I want a capability wherein if I have any additional questions for the applicant, I should be able to request it from the applicant. Maybe in the current state, they are doing it in a paper form and it's taking like 4 to 5 days just to, get some more information. Let's suppose the applicant has missed something, or there's some more information which needs from the applicant. In the current state, they are doing it by phone or by fax or by mails, and it's taking a lot of time. So how can we make sure that we can improve that part? So this guy may say that, okay, I should have a feature, I should have a capability wherein if I need some more information from this applicant, I should be able to send the request right then and there. Similarly, now we get to know that in the current state, they are sending a request to some bureau. Now, typically when you are in this kind of situation where you have to approve some loans, you don't just give loans without checking the applicant's credit score, history, and all those things, right? So you don't want to get into a situation where you issue the loan, but then you don't get anything back. You need to check the credit worthiness of that applicant. So in the current state, again, it's taking a couple of days to get the credit report of this applicant, and it's taking some time to process. How can we improve that? How can we expedite that part of the process? And because the SME knows the problem, we need to ask the right questions, of course, and we get to know that because they are doing it in a very manual way, they are sending the request maybe by fax or by mail or by email, and they are taking a lot of time. So the requirement is I should be able to request an applicant's credit report from Equifax so that they can get the response back immediately and they can process the loan fast enough. Now, as part of the whole process, we get to know that the loan processing specialist is one role who will be doing some basic evaluation, but then he or she cannot approve the loan. It has to be sent to this guy, to the loan approving officer, to approve the loan. Right, so in the 2B state, the requirement is that this guy should be able to send the loan application to this guy, to the loan approving officer, so that he or she can provide the approval. Now, we are not talking how that will be done. We are just telling what needs to be done, what this guy will do, and what this guy will do. Right? So, as part of my stakeholder requirement 4, the requirement from the loan processing specialist is that I should be able to send the application to the loan approving officer for the final approval.
Shaitan?
Yeah.
That approval is done after the credit is checked, right?
Yes, we are doing the check here at this part.
Okay.
But see, right now I'm not doing the process model. When we are doing the process flow, yes, what you asked is correct. When will we do that check? Okay, it's important to know that. But right now I'm trying to understand the requirements of the stakeholders. But your question is valid. Okay, when do we do the check? Of course, it has to be done before we send it to this guy, because as I said, this guy's job, the loan processing specialist job, is to evaluate the applications, and only then it should be sent to the officer. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah, only then after the loan process specialists have checked the credit with Equifax or TransUnion or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, just like this guy had her own set of requirements, the loan approving officer will have their own set of requirements so that they can achieve this high level need. So now when we talk to the SME, who is the loan approving officer, he or she may tell us that, hey, once I review an application, I should be able to approve or reject the application.
Shaitan, the loan process specialist, he wasn't considered an SME.
No, these are all SMEs.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we may have multiple SMEs working on the project. Okay.
Okay.
So this guy may say the loan approving officer will give his or her own set of requirements. So even they need a feature, they need some way to reach out to the loan processing specialist in case if they have any questions. Maybe the specialist has forgotten something and they want to reach out to the specialist. Now, maybe in the current state they are doing it by phone, by email. But see, email also is considered to be, it's not captured within the system. It's not part of the process, right? When you do an email, it is outside your process.
Maybe they can have a chat system.
Right. So you want to build a solution where everything is part of the process. If you want to ask a question, right now I'm going to the system level and telling you what will happen. There might be an option on the screen to request some more information from the specialist. So when they type in some text and submit the option, the specialist guy will get an alert on the screen. They can see what information is needed from the officer. They can again type in, they can upload the documents and resubmit it back to the officer, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. So the loan approving officer is saying that, hey, I need to be able to reach out to this guy in case if I have any questions, concerns. Otherwise, I should be able to approve or reject the loan. Right. So, and the last one we have is the Stakeholder Requirement 6, that we work on multiple browsers. Now, this looks technical requirement, right? This looks more like a system level requirements. But still, I would take it as a stakeholder requirement because we need to further define it at a system level requirement, what we consider it to be, like multiple browsers, what it takes to satisfy this requirement where they can work on multiple browser. So browser can be your Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, right? Firefox. Then there's a couple of more, right? What are some other browsers? Mac uses some other one, right? Safari. right? So these are the big main browsers. Google Chrome is number one these days, I think. Internet Explorer, Firefox, then Safari, and there are a couple of more, right? But the reason why we need to consider this is depending on the browser you are using, and also within that there are different versions of the browser. The system may behave differently. That's the problem. If I'm using a system on Internet Explorer, that doesn't mean that the same experience will be delivered on a different browser. If I'm using it on Internet Explorer, I may have a different experience on Google Chrome. I may have a different experience when I'm using Firefox. Right? So it's not that the functionalities will change, but something may work, something may not work. The way the pages are shown on the screen may change. So that's why we need to consider this requirement as well. Okay, how many people are using different types of browser? So in many, yeah.
Maybe they need to standardize the browser.
See, you can standardize if it's internal to your company. So if you're building a system which will be used internally within a certain department or within multiple departments, but within the same firm, you can control that, correct? But let's suppose you're building a system for the customers who are across the nation. Now you cannot control that component because somebody in California might be using Google Chrome, someone next door might be using Internet Explorer, somebody in DC might be using some other browser. Like 5 people living in same building might be using different browsers. How can you control that? Or even if they are using the same browser, they may be on different versions of it. You just cannot control that piece. So you need to take, you need to understand what will be the different scenarios or what will be the different browsers and the different versions of the browser people might be using. Or what you said is okay, many systems, what they do is, many people, what they do is they will put a disclaimer that this system will work best with IE and Google Chrome with version so and so and more. Now, it's up to them whether they want to use the system to its potential, then they need to use that specific browser. Otherwise, they will not be getting all the benefits from the system. Right? So this level of requirement is more about talking to the SMEs, understanding their current state and come up with a future state, and in a simple plain English. You don't need to get into the system level requirements at this level.
You're talking about the red writing, right?
Yes, these.
Okay.
Right, these are the stakeholder requirements, and ideally most of the times they are captured in a process flow.
I think you mentioned something about a modeling.
Yes.
Using a modeling.
Yeah, that's what your process models.
That okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right, so that's this layer. So now the solution requirements. The system level requirements, basically. Right, so this layer of requirements. So once we have this one nailed down, now we come to the system level requirements and start converting your business level requirements into system level requirements, or some people call it technical specifications. Now they can be done in different ways, and we'll see each one of those. And there are different types of system level requirements, and that's very important to understand. So for example, we have the functional requirements, we have the non-functional, we have interface, transition, we have business rules, and the user interface requirements. So these are different types of requirements which will be coming out from your stakeholder requirements, and then there are different ways to capture them. So these are three different ways we can capture the system level requirements. One is the functional requirements document, what we call the system shall statements. The second way we can write is a use cases, and the third way we can write is in a form of user stories. Now we will go into detail, but right now think about it. These are different ways we can write the system level requirements, and these are different documents. The way we write the documents, right? The way these documents are structured, written, right? They are different, but at the end of the day, they are still the requirements document, which will be used by your solution architect, your developers and testers, right, to design, code, and test the system. So once again, these are the different types of requirements, and these are the different ways we can capture all of these requirements. Is that clear, or any questions? Yes, Dhriti, sorry, I didn't see your chat. Any questions? Okay. So a system requirements or solution requirements describes the features, functionalities that system will be supporting. And as I said, there are different types of system level requirements: functional, non-functional, transition, interface, your business rules, and user interface requirements. And these are listed in the order of priority. Okay. Now let's see each one of these. So what do you mean by a functional requirement? So what is a functionality? In a very simple meaning, we use this term a lot, right? We don't realize it, but we use this term a lot. Whenever you buy a new phone or a new gadget, TV, right? We always use this term, knowingly, unknowingly, that hey, this phone has awesome feature. So what does it mean? What does feature mean? What do you think? Certain capability, right? And out of that capability, are you getting anything back?
Yeah, the benefit of it.
The benefit, right? So you're getting some value out of it, right? It's something you're getting out of that feature or a capability, So you use that feature and you get some benefit, some value out of it. So that's exactly a functional requirement of a customer, of a user. So functional requirement is that requirement that basically captures the features, capabilities that the user would need from the system. Now I'm using a banking application. I open that application, I type in the URL, and then I need to access my account. I cannot just barge in, right? I need to get authenticated. So what I will do is I will access that option on the system, and now I will be prompted to enter my ID password. I enter it, I submit the request, the system is doing something and it's validating my ID password and it's letting me in if it's correct, or if it's not correct, it's still giving some value that it's protecting my account from getting into wrong hands. In either case, it's giving me a value, correct? Once I log in, I have got a lot of things I can do. I can check my balance, I can make payments, I can make transfers, I can download my statements, I can dispute transactions, I can manage my profile, I can add some more people into my account. So there are so many features that system is letting me do, that it's supporting. So whenever you have, or rather whenever a user can access some feature or some capability from the system and it's getting some value out of it, that can be defined as a functional requirements. That some functionality is being provided by the system which is valuable to the user. It's giving some value back to the user. You take any example, you take any application, you go online, you want to buy a ticket for your trip. Each and every step is giving you a value, whether you are selecting your destination, you're selecting your seats, or you are selecting your meals, or you are downloading your what do you call the tickets, or you are printing your boarding pass. Each and everything is giving some value back to the user. Right? And these requirements are action oriented in nature. That means that user is using that system and then the system is providing some benefit or some value back to the user. So it's an action oriented, that a user is doing something with the system and it's giving some value back in terms of either giving them the data or letting them download some documents or issuing the ticket, whatever it is. And 80 to 90% of the requirements are made up of your functional requirements. That's why these requirements are very important, right? So any project you take, whenever you're building a new system or even enhancing an existing system, 80 to 90% of the requirements will consist of your functional requirements, because these are giving direct value back to the user. Right? So user is requesting something or it's submitting some request to the system, and the system is responding back with something. Now these requirements can be documented in 3 different ways. So as I showed you before, it can be in the form of functional requirements document. It can be in a use case format. It can be in a user story format. It doesn't matter which way you write it, but the underlying notion still remains the same, that it is a requirement which provides some capability. It provides some feature to the user which is of some value. Now here the example I'm taking is only one type of documentation, right? We will see what a use case is and how to write it in a form of a user story. But for now, to keep it simple, to introduce you the concept of writing the requirements, we are just seeing the very simple way of writing, which is in a form of the system shell statements. Right? System shell statement is basically IEEE 830 style of requirements. Now IEEE, what is IEEE? IEEE is Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer. It's an institute which was formed way back in 1970s, and they wanted to come up with some way to document the requirements. So way back in 70s, when nobody had heard of like applications or systems, and the computing was in a very early stage. So they came up with this standards of documenting the system level requirements, and they came up with this style of writing. So the system shall allow the user. The system shall allow the user to do this. Right? The system shall allow the user to log in. The system shall allow the user to download the form. So that's the way people started writing the system shall requirements, the functional requirements. And they are typically written in a document called functional requirements document, also known as FRD. Probably many of you might have heard about this term called FRD. How many of you have heard?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Chetan,
Yes?
could you the IEEE? Could you give me the definition of the Institute of Electrical?
Yeah, it's Institute of Electronics and Electrical Engineers.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, welcome. So it's just I was trying to give you some more background on the history of how this all started, that there was no standard to write a requirement. So way back in 1970s, they came up with this standard, the system shall, and that's why technically it's known as IEEE 830 style requirements. And you document all these, the system shall statements, in a document called FRD, which is a functional requirements document.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Right, and starting next week, we will do all of this hands-on, right? So you don't need to worry about how do I write FRD, what goes into FRD. We'll do all this hands-on. So I wanted to put all these concepts very clear, because when we do the hands-on assignments, you need to understand what is a requirement, what is a different type of requirement. Without that, it won't make sense. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do this. I'll give 2 minutes. Each one of you come up with at least 2 to 3 system shell statements. How about that?
Okay.
Right? It can be as simple as the system shall allow the customer to add products to the cart. Because now we are talking at a system level, right? We need to think from the system's perspective. So let me give you this. Let me give 2 minutes. I'll put a timer, and after that we will just quick. It should not even take more than 1 minute for you to explain. Okay, so I've started the timer. You have 2 minutes to come up with just 2-3 system shell statements.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hey,
Okay.
Dilip, you want to go first? Dilip, you there?
Yeah, Chandra.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Say for example, the credit card user, they can
Mm-hmm.
allow to log in their credit card section and take a loan on credit card.
Okay, but it has to be stated in this way, right? The system shall. It's a very specific way we write it. The system shall allow the user, right? That's how you should write it.
Okay.
Do you have any other example?
No, let's go, Mike.
Okay, sure. Thank you. But yeah, you got the point. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Dhriti?
Yeah, like for settings, I have written the system shall save in cache memory. Like it
Okay.
might save my passwords or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Okay.
And like for office tool, if we have a requirement, the system shall generate random number series.
Okay.
And like for
Mhm.
YouTube, I've written an example, the system shall play songs on auto mode.
Okay, good. So these are all examples of the system shell statements, right? Your functional requirements documented in the IEEE 830 style.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Gilmore, you want to go next? Or I know this is your first session, so if you are okay, you can go ahead. Otherwise, we can wait.
Well, I can look.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you using your?
So,
Are you using your? Okay, now it's okay. But I'm getting a lot of echo from your end.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, now this is good.
Awesome. Okay. So my first one is the system shall allow the user to view member level based perks.
Okay.
The second one is the system shall allow the user to authenticate login information before assigning call.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And the third one, the system shall allow the system shall alert the user to account status before proceeding.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gunjan, you want to go next? Hey, Gunjan, are you there? Okay, let's go to Kenneth.
Hi, Chetan.
Hi.
So this is according to my stock market, the Excel sheets now, the system shall allow to automatically update the Excel sheets. The
Mm-hmm.
system shall automatically show whatever the margin shortfall is.
Mm-hmm.
The system shall remember my username, password, and my credit card information.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike.
Yes, I sort of built from your first system shall statement.
Mm-hmm.
So you said the system shall allow a customer to add item to cart, and then I continue on. I said the system shall allow a customer to add customer's address. The system shall allow a customer to add mailing address. The system shall allow a customer to input a promotion code if they have one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I proceeded for the last step. The system shall allow customer to proceed to checkout.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Olivia.
Yes, I have three. The system shall log user out after 2 minutes of inactivity.
Mm-hmm.
The system shall verify user with ID and password.
Mm-hmm.
The system shall require an 8-digit alphanumeric password, which has a special character as well.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Thank you. Rafi.
Okay, so I have system shall allow the customer to calculate the minimum payment.
Mm-hmm.
System shall allow customer to look for multiple interest rates. System shall allow customers to have more than one options.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you. Vijay?
Yes, sir. For the online shopping cart, the system shall allow the user to choose a shipping option, like an upgrade,
Mm-hmm.
2-day overnight, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
In online banking, transferring funds, the system shall allow the user to alert if there is additional charge if you are transferring more than this much of the maximum allowed amount.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you. Okay, I think we covered everyone. Gunjan, if you have, are you there, Gunjan? Okay. So I think you guys are clear with this requirement. That's good because, as I said, 80 to 90% of your requirements which will be used to build your system will be your functional requirements. So you need to be very clear of what these requirements are and how we can document it in different ways. One is a system shell statement, which will go in FRD, functional requirements document. The second one is a use case approach, and the third one is a user stories. And that is typically done when you are in an agile environment, right? And we'll talk more on that later. Okay, so the second category of requirement is the non-functional requirements. So what is a non-functional requirements? So anything which is not functional, can we say that's a anything which is not a functional requirements, can we say it is non-functional? I know it's like confusing, but when we say non-functional, so just now we saw functional. So non-functional, is it anything which is not a functional can be defined as non-functional? What is non-functional? So a non-functional requirement is a requirement that puts some sort of environmental constraints on the system, some sort of limitation on the system. Right? Typically, it is not directly accessed, or it doesn't give any direct value to the user, but it is of very high importance. So a functional requirement is something which a user will always use, right? Like you are trying to get some benefit from the system and which has got direct observable value from the system. But the non-functional requirements, they don't give any direct observable value. But still, if these requirements are not met, the system is basically not functional. You cannot use the system effectively and efficiently as it was supposed to be used. So a non-functional requirement is basically it captures the environmental conditions or the qualities required for the system to be effective. And as I say in the second line, these requirements do not directly relate to the behavior or functionality of the system. That means the user cannot directly use these requirements or these features from the system because they are not available on the screen. However, they have a lot of implication on the system. They put a lot of environmental constraints on the system, and that may change the way people might use the system, the way it will be used. The effectiveness of the system might be impacted based on these kind of requirements. Now, good thing about this requirement is we have a specific categories within which these requirements can be defined. Like, let's take a very simple example. You might have used your banking application so many times. Now, when you access your application, your banking application, all you care is what you see on the screen, correct? Your login field, you enter your ID password, you access your account, and you do all the features. I mean, you see all the features, all the capabilities that system is offering you. You're using those those features. You You might have never cared about how many users are using that system when you are using it. How many concurrent users might be using the same system when you are trying to access it? Have you ever thought of? Did that question ever pop up in your mind that when I'm using this system, how many other customers might be using the same system at the same time? Right, okay, nobody, you didn't, okay, no. Kenneth says he never thought of that.
I have.
Who?
This is Rafi.
Rafi, okay, you have, okay. And why did you think that?
For example, the banking app, when I'm helping my customers, or I'm logging in and it's giving me a hard time, or it's like, you know, it's not going on. So think about it. Maybe it's a lot of people who are logging on.
Right, exactly. What about you, Gunjan? Okay, I think someone is typing response. Let me see. Okay, so not many people except Rafi has thought of that, right? When they access that application, we all we care is, okay, I'm going to use the system for specific reason because that system provides me that feature, that functional requirement. I will use that and I'm done, right? But we rarely think about these kind of things. You know, how many people are using the system at the same time when we are using it. And that is one example of your non-functional requirement, right? How much of load your system can take before it will break down. So imagine if I'm using a system, I'm able to do everything in like few seconds and I'm a happy customer. But let's suppose that bank is growing very fast and within a couple of years, now the customer base is like millions of customers, but they did not scale their system to handle those many customers. Now, even if a small set of customer, let's suppose 20% of the entire customer base, they hit the system at the same time and the system is crashing, nobody is able to use the system, what's going to happen? Now, as a customer, the same thing which I was able to do it in 2 minutes, I'm stuck, I cannot use the system, even though it is offering me the same set of features, the functionalities are same. Maybe it's now even better. It is offering me 20 new features in the system. But because the system is unable to take that load of extra people using the system at the same time, it's basically non-usable. I cannot use the system. The reason being, my system was not scaled up to the new requirements. How many of you recollect the Obamacare incident in 2009 or 10 when it was launched?
Yes.
Right? So first couple of days, the system was crashing left, right, and center.
Yes, sir.
Right? And the reason was that nobody anticipated so many people hitting the system at the same time. Right? So this is a classic example of a non-functional requirement. See, functional requirements, we all care. We all worry about them because they are directly used by the customer or by the user. But this requirement is kind of invisible. but still it has got a huge bearing on the success or failure of the system. Initial days, this Obamacare was a big mess because people were trying to use it and it was failing. Nobody was able to use it because it was crashing. The server was crashing. So many million people hitting the system at the same time. They didn't expect this to happen. How much load your system can take. And see, if you see this document, the good thing about the non-functional requirement is it has set categories. Unlike the functional requirements, which can change depending on the user, depending on the domain you are in, it may change. But this set of requirements, it gives you a set of categories within which you can play. Like archival. Many systems have a policy to archive the data for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? So you need to think about it. The system you are building, what will be the archival policy? How much of data needs to be retained and until what time? Right? And so in one of the system, in one of the projects I worked, the requirement of the customer was to archive the data for the past 10 years. And after that, we can destroy that data. We can purge it. That means we can just make a hard delete. So the second one is auditability, right? So audit means you want to keep a trail of all the transactions that happened, who did what, when, everything has to be trailed. So this auditability requirement is all about tracking all the transactions and storing it in some sort of file. The fifth one, availability. So these are all very, simple and, you can go and read these. I'll share this document with you. And I have example for each one of this, but I'm just going through a couple of them. So availability of the system. That means when will the system be available? Does it have any downtime? Does it have any maintenance time? So many systems are 24/7. Of course, you need some downtime because, it has to be, there has to be some sort of maintenance work. You cannot have system always up and running. Maybe there's some new patch, like think about it, there's some fix has to be made or there's a new version of the system needs to be released, right? So those kind of things you need to consider. And during that time, the system has to be brought down. And generally the companies, what they do is they will do all this kind of work when there's less load or there's a less traffic on the site, right? 2 a.m. or maybe late night, early morning, weekends. That's when they will be doing this kind of work, whether releasing a new system, new version of the system, or making some fixes. So basically during this time, customers cannot go and use the system. So they try to use that time frame which will be least active. Right? So these are different examples, different categories which can be thought of or which can be documented as part of your non-functional requirements. And we call it NFRs. So if you hear this term in your interview or in your job, what is NFR? Hey, have you documented all the NFRs? So they are talking about the non-functional requirements. And they get documented in a separate document called supplementary specification document. Okay, they don't get documented in FRD. In theory, they get documented in a different document called supplementary specification document. But I would just give one more statement here which might confuse you. In real world, things don't work as per theory, right? So what you will see in real world is the FRD where we have the system shell statements, you might also see these requirements documented in the same document. And the reason being, they don't want to have multiple documents capturing different types of requirements, people going into different documents and getting confused. So it's like a one document which captures your functional requirements as well as your NFRs.
Shaitan, can you explain what the name of that document again, the supplemental what?
It's called supplementary specification document.
Supplementary.
Yeah, supplementary. So if you see here.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
Yeah, supplementary specification document.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so that's only thing. Is that clear? What is NFR, where we documented, but in real world, you might see this getting documented in FRD itself.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions, concerns?
No.
Anyone else?
No.
And one last thing here, that most of these NFRs end in like LETs, like if you see here, auditability, right? Availability, compatibility, installability, maintainability. So if you see, that's basically the way people remember it. Most of them, they will have ILITY in the end. So let's see the transition requirements now. So transition requirements is another category of requirements which is basically temporary in nature. That's an important distinction of this type of requirement.
Excuse me, Shaitan, I think you forgot interface.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So transition is basically a temporary requirement which will not be forever in the system. We have these requirements only for a short duration and only to help us successfully move from the current state to future state. Right, so once we move from the current state to future state, we no longer require these requirements. That's why they are temporary in nature. But still, they are very important for us to move from the current state to future state. Now, of course, that might not have helped you guys. So let's go through a small example. So imagine if we already have a system in place, right? Let's suppose we have this system which is helping us to process loans, and we have version 1 already in use. And as part of that, people are already using that version to submit their applications, and the bank employees are using that application to review the loan applications and trying to approve or reject the loans. So they are already doing that. And simultaneously, the other team, the IT team, the implementation team is working to implement a second version of that system, which has got some new requirements in it. So in the current version, right? That means the version which is currently being used by the end users. Let's suppose we have these many users using the system. They have started building their application. They went online, they are filling out all the details, they are uploading some documents, but this version has a set of requirements which might be changing in future when we release the version 2. Right? So for example, in the current system, version 1, we have some requirements that says the credit score should be 600 or more. We need the income proof, we need some lease agreement, we need a complete application form. So when I go as a user, I go into the system and start filling my application, the system will enforce these requirements. It will make sure that my score is 600 or more. I must upload income proof, lease agreement, and a complete form. Application form must be uploaded. Now let's suppose on June 1st, 2017, okay, these dates are old, but let's go with the same date, okay? So we have these people who have started application. Someone has done on Feb 14th, March 26th, May 15th, and May 30th. Now let's suppose on June 1st, 2016, we had a second release of this same system. And in the second release, now, as I told you that the requirements got changed. Now we have a new set of requirements. And the new set of requirement is now the score must be 700 or more. Right? And now we need notarized documents. We need some more specific requirements from the system. The income proof must be notarized and uploaded. The lease agreement must be notarized and uploaded. This remains same, makes sense. We need to have a complete application form. But now in addition to these, we have two more requirements. That we have the scanned passport size photo must be uploaded by the applicant, and then the credit report must be uploaded along with the application. So in the version 2, things got changed. And the system will enforce these new requirements, because now post June 1st, 2016, these will no longer be supported, but in fact these will be supported. So any customer who comes on June 1st or after that is good, because when they access that system, they don't need to worry about these requirements, because now they are creating a new application and the system will enforce all of these. So they are good. But what about these 4 people who started their application before this new release was kicked in, or before we released this new version of the system? Now, how do you handle those offers which were already created but not submitted? Or we might also have a scenario where somebody's created an offer and submitted before this date of June 1st, but they were not evaluated by June 1st. It's lying somewhere with the banking employee and they are still evaluating it. So what do you think it will happen on June 1st or June 2nd when this guy comes in and tries to do their loan application? Should we enforce these requirements which were in the system, which were supported by the system prior to June 1st, or should we enforce this set of requirement? Second question is, imagine I'm a customer, I submitted my application on May 30th, and on June 1st we have a new release. And now, because we have a new release, we have new set of requirements. From the bank perspective, should we accept that application which was built on old requirements? Should we reject it, or should we return it back to the customer and say, hey, because we have a new release, you need to resubmit your application?
Shayjan,
Yes.
maybe the bank has a grace period. Maybe the bank has a grace period where they'll accept the first requirement documents up to a certain period. So June 1st come, maybe from June 1st to June 5th.
Okay.
Or June 1st to June 8th.
Right. So what you're trying to say is that we need to think of this kind of scenario where somebody has submitted their offer or application, and now we need to make sure that we can handle that in the new environment, in the new system, right? So maybe in this case, the management thinks that, yes, we need to accept those applications which were submitted before that date, because we don't want to reject it. Like, you may have like 100,000 people or 100,000 customers who have done this, those who have submitted their applications before the new release was kicked in. Now, it's not their fault, right, that we have a new release which has got new requirements. So maybe they decided, okay, let's process them based on the old requirements we had. And once we are done with that, no longer we will support any application which comes in. We will, because now think about it, June 1st and beyond, we don't need to worry about it, right? All the applications will be evaluated based on the new requirements, because now we have a new version. So we don't need to worry about it. But let's suppose we have like 2,000 applications which were submitted before the new release went in. Should we accept and process those 2,000 applications based on the old requirements? Because they were already submitted by the customers. We don't want to be in a bad light, return their offers, return their applications, or reject them of no fault. I mean, at no fault. I mean, they don't have any, it's not their fault, basically. Because we released a new version which has new requirements, we don't want to reject their applications. Instead, we will process them, but during that time we may have a special requirements. That's what the transition requirements is. We may have these requirements which will make sure that all these old offers or applications, we are able to move them from the old system to the new system, so that they can be processed. And once we process them, the system will no longer support this. It is only supporting because these were submitted before that date. And that's why I call it's a temporary requirement. Once we are done with this, once all those 2,000 offers or applications are processed, we no longer will support, the system will no longer support these requirements. Is that clear?
Yes.
And this is only applicable when you already have a system in place. Now let's suppose you have a brand new system. You are working on a brand new system where there is no system at all. Then you don't need to worry about it, because there is no such scenario. Yeah, there is no such scenario where you need to worry about moving it from the current state to the future state, right? Sometimes there can be the data issue as well. I mean, there can be a scenario where you have to load all the data into the system. Now, let's suppose you are using a very old system which is built on COBOL. COBOL is a language which was very popular way back in 70s, 80s. But still, there are many applications which run on COBOL, which is common business. What is common business oriented language? I think. Yes. So it's a language which was very popular. But anyways, so there might be a scenario where we are building a new application which is based on a very modern technology, and we are trying to migrate all the data from the old systems database to the new system database. So you as a BA don't have to worry about the technical aspect of it, but you need to understand what data needs to be moved, right, and in which format. So that's also one example of a transition requirement, that you are trying to move from the current state to future state. Whatever data exists in the current state, in the current database, has to be moved to the new environment, into the new database. Maybe it's a new format. That's also one example of a transition requirement. But these are very rare, these kind of requirements. The majority of them will be your functional and non-functional. And of course, your business rules will be there as well. So these three are main top requirements. This might not be applicable in all the projects. Any questions, concerns?
No.
Okay, so the next one is interface requirements. Now they are pretty easy. Interface requirements. So interface is basically when we communicate with something, right? Interfacing. So interface requirements, it basically captures the capabilities that are required when two or more systems need to talk to each other. So whenever there's a scenario where two or more systems, they need to exchange data, whether we are sending data from our system to another system. Let's suppose we are building an online banking system. Our system needs to send the data to XYZ system. Right? Let's suppose our system, this XYZ system, or sorry, the online banking system needs to get a credit report of a customer from Experian. So this online banking system needs to send some data of the customer to that Experian system, and based on that, the Experian will send some response back to our system with the credit report. So there's an exchange of data happening between our system and that Experian system. So whenever you have a scenario where two or more systems are talking to each other, exchanging data information, you have interface requirements. Now, interface requirements are captured similar to the system shell statements, right? And some people don't follow that format, but it's up to you how you want to write them. I would encourage you to write in the same way: the system shall send the data to XYZ system. The system shall receive the following data from XYZ system. That's how you should write it. Now, second point is interface requirements are captured in a document called ICD, Interface Control Document. Right now, interface requirements are a little bit technical, but you as a BA don't have to write it in a technical way. You as a BA have to understand the touch points, at which point the system has to send some data to another system, and what data needs to be sent, in which format. Similarly, at what point our system will be receiving a data from that external system, what data and in which format. That's all you need to know. How that communication will happen is not the BA's job. Right? It can be through a web service, it can be through some FTTP protocol. We don't care actually as a BA. You need to worry about when that exchange happens, what data is sent or received, and in which format it is sent or received. Any questions? Are you guys clear with this interface requirement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next one is again an important type of requirement, which is called a business rule. Now, a business rule is basically some sort of policy regulations which are imposed by the client on their business, on their processes, on their department, on their people, on their customers. Now, we all have experienced this, like policy, in many cases we have seen this. Okay, if you buy more than certain amount of goods, you get a discount, right? That's a policy. Imagine if you are an Amazon customer, the policy is if you are a Prime customer, you get free shipping, right? You get certain discount on products. You get fast delivery as compared to if you are not a Prime member. Same thing with, you have all this membership cards. You go to BJ's, Costco. It depends on the membership you have. You get the feature. You get the benefits. That's a rule. These are the business rules which have been imposed by the management on the customers. If you have an executive membership, you get discount, you get free delivery, you get cash back, certain limit. But if you are a gold customer, you get some more benefits, right? So you have different levels of benefits, different level of policy which is imposed on the customer and which is non-negotiable. Have you ever seen a scenario where one person is getting some sort of benefit and the other customer is getting other benefit just because that cashier thought so?
No.
Do you think that can happen?
No.
It can never happen, right? They are non-negotiable. That's why we call it non-negotiable. They are repeatable and reusable. That means no matter who that person is, no matter how many times you do it, based on the policy, you will be given the benefits. Just because you are his or her friend things cannot work, right? Luggage, you go to airport, you bought you bought an economy class ticket. Depending on that, you will be allowed to carry that much of luggage. As compared to if you buy the first class or business class, you will have a different set of policies imposed on you. Right, so these examples are basically your business rules, and they are type of requirements because we need to understand these. At the end of the day, the system has to support these rules. If we don't understand these, the system will not support it, and ultimately the business will fail. For example, we took this example, the the loan application. Now, no matter how you do it, whether you walk into the store or you call the bank or you do it online, the rule of the bank is your score must be equal to or greater than 700. Otherwise, we cannot give you loan. So no matter how you do it, whether you walk into the bank or you make a call or you do it online, the score which you have is non-negotiable. That rule is non-negotiable. Even if it's 669, that cannot be approved because as per the rule, as per the policy of the bank, your score must be 700 or more.
See that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The business rule is considered a policy, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, welcome. So whenever you have a scenario where your customer or SME is saying that, if the customer buys X amount of products worth X amount of products, we will give them 20% discount. That's an example of a rule. The policy and the system must support that. So whenever the customer makes a purchase of more than that, equivalent to or more than that value, the system should automatically take out that discount or apply that discount and show them the new price. Okay, any questions on this?
No.
No.
Okay, and the last one is the UI requirement. Now these are not basically the BA's responsibility, I would say, but they are good to know because at the end of the day, the BA will be responsible for building a system which is user-friendly, which is convenient to use, which is intuitive and user-friendly, right? So you as a BA must know a little bit about the UI requirements as well. And we'll do it when we are doing the mockups, wireframes. I'll talk about that, some of the best practices of UI. But these are more about how the system will look, right? The look and feel of the system. How the pages will look, what options or the features will be displayed on the page, how the user will navigate from one page to another page, right? And here the goal is not to make the system look beautiful. The goal is to make sure that we lay out the screens with all the features or the functionalities which the customers expect us to design and how easy it is for a user to navigate from one page to another page. Is it intuitive, user-friendly? So that's a goal. Like one example I can give is we build a system where the login option is somewhere hidden on the top right side of the page. So as per the best practice, your login should be very intuitive, right? It should be somewhere which is visible, and same thing with the log off. I have login somewhere on the top right page and log off button somewhere hidden on the bottom left side corner of the page. And that too, it's hidden, it's not visible. So these are some of the bad practices, because as a user, I don't want to get frustrated in using the system. It should be very intuitive. To log in, I know where to go, same with the log out. Right, so the way the page is laid out, the header, the body, the footer, the sidebars, what options do you give in the sidebars, everything has to be very intuitive, very easy to use. So we will see all those things in the UI, but again, we have a specific role for this. So I'm reiterating this. You as a BA are not expected to be expert in the UI requirements, right? UI is more about the look and feel of the system, how easy it is for the user to use the system, navigation, right? Those kind of things. But from a BA perspective, we think about, okay, what all features we need to provide on the screen, and how can we make sure that that navigation is seamless. So if I'm trying to buy something from Amazon, it should be very easy, right? I log in, I search the products, I built my cart, I make the payment, I submit the payment, I get the receipt confirmation, that's it. So as a BA, I will see what all options I'm giving on the screen and how easy it is for them to navigate from one page to another page. But then, as I say here, you have a specific role called user interface, user experience. This guy is expert in the design, the look and feel, the user experience. So they are expert in the UI requirements. So we don't want to become a UI UX person, but at the same time, you should not be ignorant of this category of requirement, because sometimes you may have to work with the UI UX person very closely.
And the UI stands for what? User experience?
UI is user interface.
User interface, okay.
Yeah. And UX is user experience. And we will see how we can use this type of requirement in coming up with our mockups, wireframes, right? When we come to that point, we'll see that, how we can apply this concept hands-on using that tool. Any questions?
No.
So if we go back to this slide, if this, to this diagram, we can see this, that based on the stakeholder requirements, now we can extract the system level requirements. So for example, my stakeholder requirement 1 said, I want to have all the loan applications in my inbox in real time. So based out of one stakeholder requirement, I may have multiple system level requirements. And in this case, we have 2 functional requirements. I may have more, but To keep it simple, I have two system level requirements. The system shall allow the user to create an account. The system shall allow the loan specialist to review the loan documents. We can also add one more. The system shall send an alert to the specialist as and when new application comes in. Right? So you can add as many as you want, but of course it has to be based on what your customer, your SME needs. It's not what BA thinks, right? BA is just helping the SME define the requirements. It's not your requirements. You are helping your SMEs. I've seen many times the BA will put the requirements which they think they need to have. That's not the case. You are trying to help your SMEs define the requirements. So you need to ask the right questions. Hey, do you need a feature where you should get an alert? If they say yes, definitely you need to add it. If they say no, we don't need this feature, then it's their call. Same thing here. My stakeholder requirement 2 said, I want a capability wherein if I have any additional questions for the applicant, I should be able to request it from the applicant. So we can break it down into, again, multiple system level requirements. The system shall provide a capability to the user to request additional information from the applicant. The system shall allow the loan processing specialist to upload documents. Maybe they need to upload some documents. Maybe I have a third system shall statement here. The system shall allow the, what is this guy? The loan processing specialist to enter some comments for the applicant. The system shall allow the user to, in this case, the specialist, to save it in a draft mode, right? It all depends on what they need from the system. But the idea I'm trying to highlight is that you can use this level of requirements and further go down into system level requirements. For example, here, I should be able to request an applicant's credit report from Equifax. Now that was my stakeholder requirement. But how do I go to the system level and define it? So now this is my interface requirement, because my system, the system we are building, will be sending a request to this Equifax system. It will send some data about the applicant, and in response it will expect the report of this applicant. So it's an interface, because now two systems are talking to each other. Correct? Same thing with the stakeholder requirement 4. Some requirements are basically just, we are translating them into a system shell statements. Like I should be able to send the loan application to the loan approving officer for the final approval. That means the system shall allow the loan processing specialist to submit an application to the loan approving officer for final approval. It's basically, we are translating it into the system shell statement. Now see here, in my stakeholder requirement 5, we said once this guy is giving us a requirement, once I review an application, I should be able to either send it back to the loan specialist or approve or reject an application. So we may have multiple requirements coming from one single statement. One system level requirement is your business rule, which says in order to approve, your score must be 680 or higher. Anything below that, anything below 680 must be rejected by the system itself. We don't need to worry about you're not doing anything. It has to be rejected right away. So you can have multiple system level requirements from one single stakeholder requirement. So for example, I can further break it down into smaller or further requirements saying that the system shall notify the loan approving officer once an application is submitted to the loan processing specialist. So here, what was the requirement? Okay, this guy can send it back to the specialist, right? In case of any, oh no, the reverse. The system shall notify this guy once an application is submitted by this person. Okay. Maybe the notification can be in the form of text or, in the form of email. So we can say the system shall send an email to this guy once a new request or a new application is submitted by the specialist. The second requirement can be the type of email you are sending. What is the content of the email? The system shall send an email in the following format, and you need to define the format of the email as well. And then the last one we have is, if you recollect, we got a requirement from the SME that they have people working on multiple browsers. So as part of our NFR, we are saying that the system shall be compatible with the following browser: Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox. That means all three browsers must be supported by the system. And the other requirement we got is that they have so many people working at the same time, like 1,000+ people might be using the system at the same time. So we need to take care of that NFR as well. How many concurrent users might be using the system? So the system shall support 1,000+, like, just to be on the safe side, you can say, you can add like 10% more and say the system shall support so many users, concurrent users, so that the system performance will not be affected. Right, so that's how you come from your top level need to the system level and go to the level at which you can give the requirements to your implementation team, that is your solution architect, your developers, your testers, so that they can take it as an input and they can design, code, and test the system accordingly. If you give the requirement at this level, they are not going to understand anything because it's a very high level. If you go at this level and give it to them, it's still vague. This layer is for you to understand as a BA, the current state and future state. And once you have the future state locked down, then you start extracting and going to the system level and defining whether it's a functional, non-functional, your interface, your business rules, right? Any of these, or transition requirements sometimes. Any questions, concerns?
Oh,
No, sir. Good.
Okay, so let's stop here. It's almost, it's 12 minutes past 10. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll meet again on Monday. Okay, Monday is a long weekend, but I don't care because Monday evening, right? So I think we are good unless you guys have any plans.
that's fine.
Right, so we'll continue with our schedule. So we'll see you on Monday And as I said in my one of the posts, be ready to present your work. It's not going to be very formal session. It's very informal. All you have to do is explain what you did and why you did that. The logic behind that, right? Whatever you created.
That will be Wednesday, right?
Yes. And also, please finish your assignments. I'll be uploading some more assignments, and I have finished evaluating the assignments which have been uploaded. So if you have not, please upload it as soon as possible so that we can have a very good discussion on Wednesday. Okay?
Okay, Shaitan, this presentation there, this will be available, what you went over today. We'll have that.
Yeah, I will send it to you guys. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay then. Good night. I'll see you back on Monday. Okay?
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.